Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtike Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Aya Namo Namaha. So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 7, and text number 1. Chapter 3, Canto 3, Chapter 7, text number 1. Shri Shuka Uvacha Evam Bruvana Maitreyam Dvaipayana Suto Buddha Prinayanniva Bharatya Vidura Pratyabhashata. Translation and purport by His Living Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, O King, while Maitreya, the great sage, was thus speaking, Vidur, the learned son of Dvaipayana Vyasa, expressed a request in a pleasing manner by asking this question. So this shlok does not have any purport, so we'll go for next one. Text number 2. Vidura uvacha Brahman katham bhagavad chinmatrasya vikarinaha Leelaya chapi yajur nirgunasya gunakriyaha. Shri Vidur said, O great brāhmaṇa, since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the complete spiritual whole and is unchangeable, how is he connected with the material modes of nature and their activities? If this is his pastime, how do the activities of the unchangeable take place and exhibit qualities without the modes of nature? Purport. As described in the previous chapter, the difference between Supersoul, the Supreme Lord, and the living entity is that the activities of the Lord in creating the cosmic manifestation are performed by the Lord through the agency of his multifarious energies. But this manifestation is bewildering to the living entities. The Lord is therefore the master of energies, whereas the living entities are subjugated by them. By asking various questions about transcendental activities, Vidur is clearing the misconception that when the Lord either descends on the earth in his incarnation or appears himself with all his potencies, he too is subjected to the influence of Maya, just like an ordinary living entity. This is generally the calculation of a less intelligent philosopher who consider the position of the Lord and that of the living entity to be on the same level. Vidur is hearing the great sage Maitreya refute these arguments. The Lord is described in this verse as Chinmatra, or completely spiritual. The personality of a Godhead has unlimited potencies to create and manifest many wonderful things, both temporary and permanent. Because this material world is the creation of his external energy, it thus appears to be temporary. It is manifested at a certain intervals, maintained for some time, and again dissolved and conserved in his own energy. As described in Bhagavad Gita, 8th chapter, 19th verse, Bhutva Bhutva Praliyate. But the creation of his internal potency, the spiritual world, is not a temporary manifestation like the material world, but is eternal and full of transcendental knowledge, opulence, energy, strength, beauties, and glories. Such a manifestation of the Lord's potencies are eternal and are therefore called nirguna, or free from all things, all tinges of modes of material nature, even up to the mode of material goodness. The spiritual world is a transcendental even to the material goodness, and thus is unchangeable. Since the Supreme Lord of such eternal and unchangeable qualities is never subjugated by anything like a material influence, how can his activities and form be conceived to be under the influence of a illusory Maya, as is the case with the living entities? A juggler or magician displays many wonders with his acts and arts. He can become a cow by his magical tactics, and yet he is not that cow. But at the same time, the cow displayed by the magician is not different from him. Similarly, the material potency is not different from the Lord because it is an emanation from him. But at the same time, that manifestation of potency is not Supreme Lord. The Lord's transcendental knowledge and potency always remain the same. They do not change. Even when displayed in the material world, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord descends on the earth by his own internal potency. And therefore, there is no question of his becoming materially contaminated, changed, or otherwise affected by the modes of material nature. The Lord Saguna by his own internal potency, but at the same time he is a nirguna, since he is not in touch with the material energy. The restrictions of the prison house are applicable to prisoners who are condemned by the king's law, but the king is never affected by such implications, although he may visit the prison house out of his goodwill. In the Vishnu Puran, the 6 opulences of the Lord are stated to be non-different from him. The opulences of a transcendental knowledge, strength, opulence, potency, beauty, and renunciation are all identical with the personality of a Godhead. When he personally displays such opulences in the material world, they have no connection with the modes of material nature. The very word Chinmatratva is the guarantee that the Lord's activities are always transcendental, even when displayed in the material world. These activities are as good as the Supreme Personality of the Godhead himself. Otherwise, the liberated devotees like Shukadeva Goswami would not have been attracted by them. Vidur inquired how the Lord's activity can be in the modes of material nature, as is sometimes miscalculated by the persons with a poor fund of knowledge. Invariety of the material qualities is due to difference between the material world, material body, and the spirit soul. The conditioned soul's activities are displayed through the medium of the modes of a material nature and are therefore perverted in appearance. However, the Lord's body and the Lord Himself are one and the same. And when the Lord's activities are displayed, they are certainly non-different from the Lord in all respects. The conclusion is that person who consider the Lord's activities material are certainly mistaken. Vidurovacha Brahmana katham bhagavatas chinmatrasya vikarinaha Leelaya chapi yujjeran nirgunasya gunaha kriya. Sri Vidura said, O great Brahmin, since the Supreme Personality of a Godhead is this complete spiritual whole and is unchangeable, how is he connected with the material modes of nature and their activities? If this is his pastime, how do the activities of the unchangeable takes place and exhibit qualities without the modes of nature? Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guruna Vaishnavancha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaragunatanvitam Tam Sachivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Varjana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padana Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Cha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Yadinam Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. This chapter is entitled as a Further Inquiries by Vidura. In the previous chapter, we have seen how Maitreya Rishi has explained about the creation of this material world. What are the different energies? What are the different elements they got created? Who are the controlling deities of that? And how these deities, they are praying to their lordship. And in the conclusion of this chapter, Maitreya Rishi says, even it is impossible for the Lord Himself to know about His own energies. They want to speak of us. With reference to that, Vidurji in this chapter 7, he asked question to Maitreya Rishi. He says that if Lord is complete spiritual whole, Chinmatra means transcendental actually, which is full of knowledge. If he's like that and he is nirguna, generally this nirguna term is mostly used by Mayavadis, impersonalist. They consider their lordship as impersonal, that he does not have a particular form. And whenever there is this material creation takes place, he also takes some particular form and he appears in this material world to perform his activities. And they say when the Lord comes in contact with the material nature, he takes his own form. Do you think so, that he takes that form?
If he says so.
Who?
If the Lord says so, it's true.
No, he never says that he comes in contact with the material nature and then he becomes he gets a form. It never happens. His form is eternal, that never gets affected by the modes of material nature. And that's why he is known as a nirguna. See how it can affect their lordship, because it is created by him. And as explained here, as a juggler or magician, sometimes with his tacts he appeared in front of you as a cow. Is he that cow? No. But is he different from that cow?
Is he different?
Because he himself has become like a cow, so he is not different from the cow, but he is not a cow. Got it?
He appears to be a cow.
Yeah, he appears to be a cow. So same way when Lord comes into this material world, he appears to be like what he wants to show it to others. So he has his own form. He is not a nirguna. He never gets affected by the modes of material nature. That's why he is known as a gunatitaha. Is beyond the modes of material nature. And even the spiritual world where he stays, that never get affected by the pure goodness of this world, because totally transcendent, that is totally transcendent. That's why it is called as a para prakriti, beyond this material manifestation. And in first para, Prabhupada has wonderfully explained about how people, they think that what is what, and how one should understand that thing. So that need to be taken care, that need to be understood. The Lord is the master of all his multifarious energies, and he is bewildering to all living entities. Because living entities, it's very difficult for them to understand the inconceivable Lord. So what they try to do? They try to relate him and his activities with their activities. Like that frog who does not know how big is that ocean. But staying in the well, for him, everything is this well, and well is everything for him. And he was not knowing. He started to understand the limitless ocean in the parameter of his own well. He was jumping from one corner to another corner and asking the Dr. Frog that, oh, this your well must be of your ocean must be of this size. He said, no, never. So same way, being in the material world, even though we don't know exactly about our own body, forget about the Lord's material energies, but still we try to gauge the activities of the Lord through our own knowledge that we acquire by these imperfect senses. And that's why sometimes we think that Lord, when he comes to material world, he also takes a form and he performs the activities. And that activities are also get affected by the modes of material nature. But it never happens. It never happens like that. Because, as Prabhupada has explained here, the Lord is Saguna by his own internal potency. But at the same time, he is Nirguna since he is not touched with the material energy. Then Prabhupada gives the example of king. See, everything in the kingdom that belongs to king, and whatever he has created, he is responsible for that. But he never gets affected by the activities of that particular thing. So Prabhupada gives the example of a prison. Prison is also there in the kingdom. But that is meant for whom? Even though it was built by the king, it is not meant for the king. It's meant for the what? Prison.
Oh, prison?
Huh?
Oh, I've heard the word. Prison.
The people who try to exploit other people's asset, who try to create disturbance in the social atmosphere, they are put into prison. But sometimes when king comes to visit that prison, does he has to follow the all codes and conducts that are followed by the prisoners? Is he bound to visit the prison every day? By his own sweet will, he may come. He may visit that place. And he never gets affected by the bylaws and rules and regulations of that prison. So same way, when Lord, by his own sweet will, he comes to this material world, he never gets affected by the rules and regulations of this material world for his activities. And that's why he known as a Swarat. Swarat means totally independent. He is totally free to do as he wish. Not like us. We are forced to perform activities. Even though sometimes we don't want to perform few things, we are forced to do that. Anishchannapi varshneya, baladiva niyojitaha. That's what Arjuna asked their lordship. Oh my Lord, please let me know what is that which forces us to perform activities in this material world. But Lord is not forced to come to this material world and forced to get done the pastimes what he's supposed to do. He does it by his own sweet will. That's the main difference between the Lord, his appearance in this material world, and their existence in this material world. By nature, conditioned souls are meant to come to this world and suffer. And if someone wants to get a happiness in this world, do you think it will be there?
No.
So, that's the question that Vidura has asked. He says, how is it possible to understand that such a Lord, he comes to the world and never gets affected. Even though he is cause of each and everything, whatever happens in this material world. How he's not getting affected? That's the Lord's opulence known as a renunciation. Even though he does everything, but he never claims anything. Not like us. We do minute thing also, but we need recognition for that. Like we cook it. It comes out very nicely. It has a really good taste. And we claim that I have done this. What you have done actually? You have gathered the ingredients. You have never prepared that ingredients. Did you manufacture that ingredients? No. You have just done the simple thing. You got them together and giving it. But who has done the real thing? Who has given the taste to that?
Who's in the
Taste. To taste to the food. Who has given the taste? I have never given taste to the water. Water has its own taste. Sometimes the taste of cooking depends upon the taste of water also. If water is a salty, whatever you cook, it becomes obnoxious. If water is a sweet, then that food becomes really wonderful. So who is giving that taste? It's the Lord. Does he claims for that?
Well, he could.
But he never, because his opulence of renunciation that attracts everyone. And that's, in the conclusion, Prabhupada in his purport, he says, the conclusion is that person who consider the Lord's activities material are certainly mistaken. So whoever tries to compare the Lord's activities with our activities is mistaken. And that person can't understand their Lordship, which is not possible for him to understand about the glories of the Lord. So in this chapter, the confusion about Lord's activities and our activities has taken care by Maitreya Rishi, and he has given a wonderful explanation about how the Lord's activities are transcendental and his appearance and performance of different activities in this material world never gets affected by modes of material nature. That's the theme of this chapter. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So do you have any question? No?
No.
That's good. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki